Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how I use MeisterTask to handle my personal GTD workflow. Now prior to using MeisterTask, just to give you a little background, I've been using GTD for many years, but the only web applications I really felt fit the GTD bill were more task list-based GTD apps, not apps such as MeisterTask or Trello, which use more of the Kanban board method, where you're creating index cards with your tasks and then you move them to different columns on your board. I was having difficulty at first when I was reviewing those apps to figure out how I could make that work for GTD. So I was sticking with the list-based apps instead, such as Nirvana. That was one I was really comfortable with using in the past. The problem I had with the list-based apps is it was hard for me to actually, and it may be a personal issue for me being motivated to do the tasks or to know where I was in the process flow of doing them. So the list-based task managers were great at creating the list, but were difficult for me to use to actually do the items. And as you know, in the end, it doesn't really matter how organized your lists are, it's getting the things done. That's GTD, getting things done, and I was having trouble getting anything done using a list-based task application. So that's what drew me to wanting to look into these Kanban board-based apps to see if they would help me get more things done. And what it really just took for me to do is to sit down and look at this application to figure out how can I make it work, how can I be comfortable that it's capturing my GTD process, that nothing's falling through the cracks. Once I was able to come up with a great system, I was really happy with the results. So let's go ahead and jump in and I'll show you what I have done to make MeisterTask work for me for GTD. So you'll see over here we're on the dashboard, and over here on my projects list I have created 3 projects: Inbox, Backlog, and Focus. Now these aren't projects, so to speak. These are what MeisterTask calls your various lists or groupings of columns, are projects. So the system I came up with requires these 3 projects. And the first one is the inbox. So let's go ahead and jump in there. Okay, so now we're in my inbox project, and you'll notice I have various columns from left to right. The first column is my true inbox. I call it collect. This is where all my ideas get added. You can also have items forwarded to this column via email. Say if you got something that came up at work that requires an action, you can forward that email right to MeisterTask and it'll populate in this column. Other apps such as that IFTTT, if this then that, that app may have has third-party automation that goes to MeisterTask, so does Zapier. There's a lot of ways to get new tasks into this column throughout the day. So this is where every task I have starts from my GTD process. I only want one inbox. As you know, the fewer inboxes you have, the better. So you know that you're capturing everything. You know exactly where to go look for your items to go and process them. So here's my sample list of tasks that I've created here in this inbox project, just for the purpose of demonstration. And now I'll go ahead and show you how I would process them. So if we take a quick scan at my columns that I have in my inbox, you'll see that the first 2 I have, say, area, meaning area of focus or area of responsibility, however you want to call that. And then as we move along, I've got my context, my add errands, add home, add office. I know if you read the book GTD, there's talk about add phone or add computer, things like that. Now that that book is 10 such years old, some of these contexts may be a little irrelevant now, since we always have our phones, so not necessarily needing an add phone anymore. But if whatever you use, this is where you put all your contexts. And then I also have columns for energy, whether it's a high energy item, meaning I'm raring to go. I've got a lot of mind bandwidth ready to do something difficult. Or maybe the item is low energy, which would be good on a Friday afternoon when I'm out of gas and I just want a quick win. So this is where I would assign the energy level. And then the last three columns I have is the item urgent? Is it not urgent? Or is it actually done? Maybe an inbox item that took less than 2 minutes, I just did it. And no further processing needed. So those are my columns. And now we'll go through what I would do to actually assign the various area focus, context, energy level to the item. Okay, so the first one I have in my inbox is wash car. So what I like to do for my own personal workflow is I want to assign all of these different, the area focus, the context, the energy level. I like to assign it to all of my tasks. And that is because then when it's time to actually do the items and I want to filter by either what area focus I'm working on or context or what have you, all these tasks have those tags with them. So the first one, wash car, I want to make a decision of what area focus is that. That obviously would be a personal item. So I dropped it there, and you can see that the tag of personal was dropped on it right when I dropped the card there. For those of you not familiar with MeisterTask, this is, to me, the best benefit of this application, period, is that within each column that you create, you can assign automation to what happens to the card when it goes in there. Under this Actions tab here, you see it says define what happens when a task is moved or created here, and what I have set up for this column is to add the tag personal, meaning my personal area of focus. And that's what I have set up on all of these columns. So what I can do is just take this card and kind of like a salad bar, go through and assign all the tasks I think are applicable to it. If I thought it also had a work area focus, which doesn't make sense, but if I did and I dropped it there, you'll see it's going to add that as well. It'll continue to add as many tags as you drop it in to these columns. I'll go in here and remove the work one. But just want to let you know that you can have multiple contexts to one task, or multiple energy levels, I guess. So not that you need that, but it's not restrictive to just one per. So now I drag it over into here, decide what context it is. This is something I'll do at home. And then I'll go drag it further to energy level. It's kind of a medium. You can see I'm collecting tags as I move it along. And the last thing I'm going to do is it urgent, not urgent, or done? Just a quick note on what urgent means to me is it something that I need to do? Does it have a due date prior to my next weekly review? And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is. But obviously washing the car in the strict sense of GTD would never have a due date. Due date meaning this is something that if you don't do it by that date, then forget it, because you can't do it. Such as you have a due date of buying a Valentine's Day present by February 14th. If you want to buy your wife flowers on February 15th, forget it. It's too late. But wash car is not urgent. By my definition of urgent, meaning due has a due date, must be done prior to my next weekly review. So I will go ahead and drop that into not urgent. And it's also not done because I haven't done it. You'll notice when I dropped that card into the not urgent, it went away. And that brings me back to automation of a column, which is great. That's why I really like this app. And if you go down to the little icon here, what it's basically saying is if I drop it here, the instructions are to move the task to my backlog under to process, which it has done. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and quickly process my remaining inbox items. And what you can also see is what I like to do sometimes is I'll just process these in bulk. Like I'll give them all the area focus and I'll do all the errands. You can do one at a time all the way across. You can do them in bulk. Whatever makes sense to you. Looks like everything I picked here is just a personal item, no work items, but if you had that, you'd drop it over in work. Buying tickets for the show. See, here could be an example of, because I probably need to do it on my laptop or something. I could probably do it when I'm at home. I could probably also do it when I'm at the office. Maybe I shouldn't, but I probably could. So this is just examples of putting every tag on it you think is applicable. So when the time comes to do the work, and you run your filter about where I am or how much energy I have or things like that, the right things will pop up at the right time. Remodel basement. Go to Tahiti. Well, I'll just put it in at home. Even though I don't know if that's at errand or what. And I said, you do this the way that makes sense to you. Here's another one. I could probably pay my internet bill at home or at the office. Pick up my prescription will be an errand. And such. And then you'll take this, move it to the energy levels, and then do the final piece of urgent, not urgent, and done, using the criteria I had given before. So now we're back to my dashboard, and you'll see those 3 projects. Remember when we first started, the inbox count was 6, the backlog was 0, and focus was 0. Now you see the counts have changed because my inbox has been processed. Now I have 5 items in my backlog and 1 in my focus list. Let's go ahead and jump into the backlog list, and I will show you what we have in there. Now this is going to look more like GTD to you, where you're going to notice all the column names that are you're familiar with: next actions, someday, tickler, projects, and then 2 others that I have for my own workflow: the focus list and done. Now, as you can see, we've got all those items from my inbox that I dropped into the not urgent column. And remember, the automation then says move it to to process in the backlog, which it has done. So now I have all my tasks in the to process column already tagged, ready to go. And now I just need to put them in the appropriate GTD list. So for wash car, that's a next action. Buy tickets for the show. Now let's say that for this one, I have buy tickets for the show, but the tickets aren't on sale for a couple of weeks. And I can't act on it yet because they're not even available to be purchased. For those, that's where we put it in our tickler list. So I'll go ahead and put one here and drop it. What you'll see here is a date was just put on it. That's, once again, I have automation set on my tickler list that if I drop it here to put a date, I'd put a due date on the item. Now in this case, for the tickler list, I'm repurposing the due date to really mean the tickler date or the start date of the item. And I do that because everything I have in my tickler list, I don't want it to fall through the cracks when I'm doing a weekly review. I want to know what's coming up that'll be available to review. So I want everything in my tickler list to have a date. Therefore, I have automation automatically put a due date on it. And then that'll trigger me to say, now let me go into this item and put what the real tickler date should be. So let's say that I can't buy these tickets until June 1st. That's when they go on sale. So what I'm doing there, now you can see it's in my tickler list as June 1st. That'll be the first day that I can actually take an action on it. So during my weekly review, if that comes up, I might move that over to my next actions list because now it's something I can act on. But in the meantime, it's out of my next actions and over here on the tickler list to kind of keep it out of the way because I can't move on it yet. So that was one of the tricky things I was trying to figure out. How can I use an application like this to take these tickler items out of my next actions, but not forget about them, not have them fall through the cracks. That's what I came up with, and it's actually been pretty successful for me. As long as you're doing your weekly review religiously, which is the foundation of GTD anyway, so you should be doing that. As long as you're doing that and doing your weekly review, you can run these filters, like filter for anything that's due within a week or things like that. When you do that, these items will show and you can appropriately move them to next action or move them to done because you're not going to do it or things like that. So let's come back. Pay the internet bill is a next action as well. You notice what I have not done on there is actually tagged when it needs to be paid by. So in this case, maybe I have an attachment. Maybe it came to me in an email of my actual bill, so I forwarded it here. I could look at the attachment to know what day the bill was due, and we'll just say it was due in a couple of days. I have to pay it, or what have you. Go to Tahiti would be nice. I'll put it in my someday list. And let's say remodel the basement is something I'm ready to move on. So it's not a someday item, but remodel basement is not a single task. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of pieces in order to do that. So I'll put that over my projects list. And there you go. So now I have taken these items out of ToProcess and I've moved them to our standard GTD lists. I want to spend a couple seconds just talking about how I handle my projects list and how I incorporate that into the workflow. So for remodel basement, another thing you can do in MeisterTask is add they call checklist items, so kind of subtasks. This is where I would put the pieces of the puzzle to the remodel basement project. So for instance, I may need to call a contractor. I may need to select the flooring. I may need to clean up all the junk in my basement, and on and on. So these would be the tasks related to the project. Now, of course, in GTD, I need to have my next actions available in the list so that when I'm doing items, I can select it to do it. And since it's right now it's buried here in this checklist, none of these tasks are available in my next actions list. So let's say I close that out. You can see that this project has 0 complete out of 3 tasks. Now during weekly review, you're going through your projects. Let's say it's weekly review time. I'm going through here and then I look and say, are any of these things I'm ready to move on? Maybe I am ready to move on calling a contractor. So what I would do then is I would just copy that and then I can put it over into, I can put it into my next actions list. Now, if I'm doing that here and not in my inbox, then I would want to come in and assign my tags of that's a low energy, do it at home, it's personal. So you can use this mechanism to get these tasks into your workflow. Now, when I do that, what I also like to do in the project is to check mark it. Not check marking that it's done, but more check marking that it's in my system. And now it shows 1 of 3 being in the system is basically what this is saying. So I hope that makes sense of how I handle projects in MeisterTask. Okay, so there's one final piece that I wanted to share with you. It's kind of me taking my GTD to the next level, and that next level for me is actually coming up with the momentum and motivation to really get these items complete, to get them done. I was always great at putting together my next actions, someday tickler lists, getting everything organized. I was great at getting my system organized, but I found that that's where it seemed to stop. I was having trouble actually getting the items done. And believe me, I would trade all the organization, everything in the world for the motivation to finish the item. So I needed to take it one step further, and that's where this last column specifically comes into play. The focus list. What I've kind of done, you can call it a mental game or whatever you like to call, but every week when I do my weekly review, I shoot for a targeted number of items that I want to complete. It's sort of an internal motivation, what I would consider a good week of completing items. Now let's say that I feel that completing 2 items a week, I know it's small, but Let's just say I'm saying that would be, I would consider that a great week to have that done. So, okay, now it's weekly review time, and I see everything that's in my next actions and in my someday list, and I say to myself, if I can finish 2 things this week, I would feel great about myself, that I accomplished a lot. So now it's me deciding what are those things that I would feel that way about. Now, the first thing is, looks like I would have no option if I say what's due within a week. You see how pay internet bill shows up in that task? Looks like I have no option but to add that to the tasks I will do this week, because it has a due date within the week. So now it's becoming urgent. So I'll drop that in my focus list. As you can see, it left because this went to my focus project under the new column. So that one went there. That's one item. And let's say I really want to get something else done. I got to call the contractor because my basement's awful and I need to get moving on that project. So during my weekly review, I'm saying, okay, this has got to go to my focus list. And the rest of the items are, sure, if I complete my focus list for the week and I've got more energy, I want to come back and grab new items, here they are. They're waiting for me. But I don't want to overwhelm myself with too much in my focus list, and then I feel kind of let down because I didn't finish everything. To me, when I get to my focus list, this is something that I want to have everything in there complete before my next weekly review. So it's kind of a game I play with myself or what have you, but it's been very successful in allowing me to actually get things done. All right, so now we're back to the dashboard. I got my inbox to 0. My backlog has been processed. I've just done my weekly review. And this is kind of a key point to bring up, that really the only time I ever look at my backlog is when I'm doing weekly review, or let's say I'm trying to use that GTD principle of I'm at errands, for instance. I want to see everything on my list that I can do while I'm on an errand if I want to be efficient and such. So I may be on my phone, on the phone app, I may be saying, show me everything in my backlog that has the at errands context. I may be doing that. And I also would go to the backlog if my focus list is 0. I've done everything I want to do for the week, feeling great, and hey, let me see if maybe I can do something else to make it even a better week. But other than that, I don't visit my backlog. I don't visit it daily. I don't process new items that I may have sent to it daily. The only thing I really look at for sure on a daily basis is my inbox, because I want to keep that up to date. I look at that at least once a day to get that to 0. And then focus, when I'm actually doing items, this is where it shows me the work I actually do. The stuff that matters to me right now that I really need to look at. I feel comfortable that everything's been captured in my backlog, that I'm not missing anything, nothing's falling through the cracks. I've got that system already set up, so I feel good. I don't have to always be in the backlog looking, especially, with 4 items, fine. But when you start getting 100 items and you see 50 items in your someday list, 100 in your next actions, you don't want to mess around looking in there, getting caught up and doing stuff that's not important to you. Given the system I've already put together, I know that what's in my focus list is what's important to me right now, and that's the only list I really work from. So let's go in there now and see how I handle that list. All right, so now we're in the focus project, and this is where I spend probably 90% of my time, because this is where the board I'll be working from when I'm actually doing the items. All the heavy lifting has already been done, processing the inbox and doing the weekly review. So here you notice there aren't a lot of columns. There don't really need to be a lot of columns, because everything here I know is something I want to get done before my next weekly review, and all the tags have already been accumulated, everything. These items are fully processed, ready to go. I just need to do them. For pickup prescription, you may remember back when I was processing the inbox, this was one item that I didn't move to the not urgent list. I actually put on the urgent column, meaning I needed to have it done before my next weekly review. So that's why this is sitting over here. And you'll notice the other two, where the pay the internet bill and call a contractor, came from when we were doing the weekly review. So I've got this whole list ready to go, and all I need to do is just do the items now. So I'll drag pick up prescription. That's the first thing I want to do this week, and drop it in progress. This is another thing I want to point out. I think is a great feature in MeisterTask, not necessarily for personal tasks, but definitely for work tasks. If you're going to use this for your work as well, is when you drop an item in a column, you have the option of having it start a timer for when the item came in. So you can see here it's automatically started counting how long that the task has been in that column. This is great for if you're doing billable hours for work or things like that. Then you don't have to remember to turn the timer on for the task. It'll do it automatically as part of automation. So I have that set up for this column, that if I drop a task in there, start the timer. And if I need to stop recording the time, I can stop and start it automatically or while I'm in the task. But I do have automation set to turn the timer on when it goes in, so I don't forget. And that's really it. If for some reason you're waiting you sent something over to a coworker and you need to wait for them to respond, you can drag the item into waiting for while you're waiting. I also have an automation here to turn the timer off when it comes in here. That's really it. Then it's just a matter of doing the items. When they're done, moving to done, I'll put the check mark on it, and that's it. Hopefully you get through all your items in the week, call it a good week, and then next week, weekly review, and back at it again. So that pretty much wraps it up. That's how I use MeisterTask to handle my GTD workflow. Hopefully you saw a couple things here that you like, that you want to incorporate into your system as well. And I'm sure you probably saw some things you wouldn't incorporate into your system, which is great too. That's kind of the nature of GTD. Whatever works for you personally to allow you to get things done. So thanks for taking a few minutes to check out this video. Have a good day.